Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Black History session. I am Solid Blue Sister with my great co-host.
The Dread Empath. Happy Black History Month, year, everything, folks. How
So,
are you,
y'all,
Solid?
so today, y'all, we're going to talk about the suppression of Black education and how Black people have been suppressed throughout history in getting an education and how we got to where we are now. The education of Black children is actually worse in 2024 than it was after slaves were freed, and there's a reason for that. But Dread,
Um, it's we think that because we are out of Jim Crow, out of slavery, that you would think that because we're out of those times that our education would be flourishing and booming, but instead it's being suppressed because they want to whitewash it or and you know what? We know that slavery happened no matter what Ron DeSantis and the rest of those nutballs try to talk about. We know that it happened. But what gets me is the suppression of all of the prolific black people who have come before us. You know, the first in anything, the first Navy fighter pilot, the first, Navy diver, Carl Brashear, African American amputee, you know, where we were and where we are now. It's almost as if they suppress it to suppress the pride of our blackness when it comes to our children.
absolutely. So yeah, we're gonna start off with a little video here.
Do not, for the love of God, tell kids that slavery was beneficial because I can guarantee you it most certainly was not. Thank you.
Education and civil rights advocates are slamming new Black history teaching standards in Florida. Under the new rules, middle school teachers must now include lessons, quote, how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
It's inaccurate, it's ahistorical. Critics are calling this a big step backwards and saying it's a disservice to Florida students because they're not going to learn the full truth and the full accurate truth of American history.
Okay, so before we even get into that, I want to talk about Brown versus the Board of Education, which actually was the groundbreaking law that actually stopped desegregation in schools. That was argued before the Supreme Court by future Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall.
Right.
Um, you know, white people have always had a problem, and I don't care how liberal of a white person you are. I do believe that deep down there is this thought: black people are afraid of white. I'm sorry, white people are afraid of educated black people, and that
Oh,
ties
absolutely.
ties into when we were slaves and how much if a slave knew how to read and write, they would know how to get free. There's a thing
Right.
called the slave Bible, where it
Mhm.
was actually rewritten. Um, so, for two reasons. Number one, if slaves did know how to read and they read the Bible, this Bible just happened to be sitting around where it would say, oh, black people were meant to be slaves, black people were meant to do this, black people were meant to do this, white people are superior.
Right.
And unfortunately, throughout time, the way white society talks about black people and education, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to do this. Oh, and I know someone who always says, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. This was all by design.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but you look at it now, how in the workplace, when a black person is educated, no matter what they say, how nice they say it, they're coming off, we're seen as arrogant or pompous, especially if we say, if, no matter what tone you say it in, if you're educated and know that you're educated and you can think just like them or better than, yeah, you're seen as a threat. They would rather black people remain ignorant. If you keep a group of people ignorant, you can control them. But see, the fun part, it's not just keeping black people ignorant. If they can keep white people ignorant, history can repeat itself. They can keep us fighting amongst each other as well.
Absolutely. And, going back to slavery, Nat Turner, who was infamous for the slave rebellion that he led, that killed 55 people, 55 white people, he was literate and he knew how to read,
Mhm.
so he knew what was going on. He was reading stuff. He knew that black people were being suppressed. And see, and that's another thing. Educated black people meant more than likely they would be able to get free. And I would like to share this video.
Slave states made it illegal for blacks to learn to read or write during the antebellum period, which spanned from 1815 to 1861. Today, you wouldn't even think twice before reading or buying a book, but at that time, it was considered one of the highest grade crimes. Violation of this law meant being whipped or brutally beaten. Some even had fingers or toes cut off. Many states imposed fines, which slaves obviously couldn't afford, so some went to jail for up to 6 months. I know this sounds completely absurd, and you must be thinking, what harm could reading do that America had to go to such an extreme level? There were some major reasons behind these anti-literacy laws. Let me break it down for you. Whites never wanted black people to be on their level, let alone be superior to them. White people justified slavery based on perceived economic necessity, their racist views, and warped biblical interpretations, among other things. White people knew that once black people got educated, they would challenge the justification of their enslavement. Their whole agenda was to keep slaves from becoming leaders, organizing, and revolting. It's pretty clear from all this that these white people never imagined freeing the slaves. And to support their agenda, they did everything they possibly could to ensure black people stayed ignorant and hoped that they'd remain slaves forever. Little did they know that wasn't going to happen, because tyranny is never everlasting, and the slaves were meant to fight for their freedom sooner or later. Anti-literacy laws also arose from the concerns that slaves who could read and write could forge the documents required to escape to a free state. So fear of the slaves achieving freedom was a driving force behind these savage laws.
Yeah, pretty much.
All I can say is, black people are very intelligent. We always have been. White people are afraid of how we think, that we know how to think, that we have the capacity to think. So on that level, I just say to my brown brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters, because we all come in different shades, learn how to read, learn how to write. You may not get that degree, okay, but know how to read, know how to write, and understand. Because
Comprehension. Yes.
yes. So
Comprehension is key.
comprehension is key. And they don't want us to comprehend that they've been screwing us over for over 500 years.
I'll leave with this. Treat education as if you're a child that your parent just told can't have something. At one time, we wasn't able to have it, so want it even more. Always know if they're trying to take it from you or keep it from you, it's valuable. So don't waste it. That's education.
Absolutely. And on that note, peace.